Hello, welcome to week 3 on our revision for GCSE Computer Science. This week we're looking at the performance of the CPU, the things that can affect it. Okay, so quick reminder, please can you get revision sheet 1? We're doing the final box today at the top here for revision sheet 1. This is the final box. Even if you've had a go at this, please can you make sure you add using the notes from today's video. Okay, just a very quick recap to remind yourself. We've been looking at the CPU. This is a really important part of the spec for paper 1 that you need to know about. We know about the parts of the CPU, such as the control unit, controls the flow of data. The ALU carries out all the arithmetic and logic operations. The cache, quick access memory, stores regularly used data. And the registers are the super quick, smallest but fastest memory. And there are 4 that you need to know about for the exam. And the bus, of course, transports data around the CPU. And the purpose of the CPU is to process data and instructions by carrying out the FDE cycle, the fetch, decode, execute of instructions. Last video we looked in detail about the FDE cycle. We looked at the fact that within the FDE cycle, it retrieves an instruction from main memory. It fetches an instruction from main memory. And it's copied into the MDR. The instruction is copied from main memory into the MDR register. That's 2 points. We also learned that the instruction is decoded by the control unit. So the control unit decodes the instruction, and a new value may be loaded into the MDR or MAR ready for the next cycle. And then what does execute mean? Execute means to carry out the decoded instruction, to do it. And then the cycle starts again. So that's revision from last lesson. If you can remember those 2 points from each of those fetch, decode, execute, those are points in the exam that you'll need. And remember, 1 time around is 1 cycle, or 1 hertz, and 1 billion times around is 1 gigahertz. GHz, sorry. Okay, and then finally we learned about the parts of the CPU, the registers inside. There are 4 registers, 4 super quick memory, tiny bits of data. There's the PC, the program counter, that holds the current instruction it's about to do. The ACC, or the accumulator, stores the results of any calculations by the ALU. See where it is, it's inside the ALU. Then you've got the MAR, holds the memory address about to be used, the one that's about to be fetched and decoded. And the MDR, memory data register, holds any data or instruction that's been fetched from main memory. So it holds data, not an address, data. Okay, those are your 4 registers. So now we know about the CPU. The last thing to think about the CPU is, are all CPUs the same speed? Well, the clear answer is no, they are not. They are not the same speed. Okay, and there are 3 main factors that affect the speed of a CPU. They are the clock speed, the number of cores, and the size of the cache size. Okay, you need to be able to identify those 3, and you may also need to explain how they affect the speed of the CPU in the exam. So, clock speed. The clock speed is simply how many instructions, or the number of instructions, or the FDE cycles, a processor can carry out per second. And every core carries out that cycle. Okay, the number of instructions per second. The more instructions it can do, the faster the clock speed, the more instructions it can do per second. For example, 3.5 gigahertz means it can do 3.5 billion instructions per second. Higher the clock speed, the more instructions processed per second, or the more FDE cycles, fetch, decode, execute, it can do per second. Clock speed. Number of cores. Well, a core is basically a separate little processing unit, or CPU, within the CPU. Okay, every core has its own registers, its own cache, its own ALU, control unit, etc. So it's like having multiple CPUs within one, if you want to think of it. Okay, every core can do the fetch, decode, execute cycle. It can process data independently, separately. So each core can be given jobs to do, and the more cores you have, the more instructions the CPU can carry out at the same time, simultaneously. So the more cores, the more FD cycles, or the more instructions it can do at the same time. And if you want to think about it, one core would just be a single core processor. But nowadays, you've got dual core processors that can do two FTE cycles at the same time. You've got quad core processors. You can see can do 4 things at the same time, 8, 16, etc. Okay, the more cores you have, the more instructions it can do at the same time. And the final thing we've got is cache. Okay, what is cache? Well, think about this. Okay, every time you fetch an instruction, you've got to go to the RAM. Okay, think of it like your fridge in your kitchen. So you go to the RAM, you get the instructions, then you decode it, and then you execute it. Okay, but going to the RAM takes time. It takes time to go up to RAM, bring the instruction, and bring it into the CPU. Okay, so cache helps to improve that. So imagine that inside the CPU you had memory that you could access really quickly instead of going to RAM. Memory to store things that you use regularly, instructions that you're working on, so you don't have to keep going up to RAM to do it. A bit like a mini fridge in your bedroom to store stuff that you use regularly. Rather than having to go downstairs to the kitchen, you can go and use a mini fridge, a local storage. Okay, that's what cache is. Cache is very fast memory to store data inside the CPU, and it's quicker to access than going to RAM. And it stores regularly used data so the CPU can access it quickly when it's needed. Okay. For higher levels, to understand, there are different levels of cache as well. So level 1 is the fastest but smallest, then you've got level 2 and level 3. All I need to know for the exam really is that it's inside the CPU and it's quicker to access than going to RAM. The more cache, the more space you can store regularly used data so it doesn't have to be fetched from main memory or RAM. And that's it. On your sheet, what are the 3 factors? Identify the 3 factors and describe how each of them can affect the speed of the CPU in one sentence. There is not much space on the sheet for this, so just keep it really succinct, really clear. What is the factor and how does it affect the CPU? Have a go, then check your answers on the next part of the video. Okay, hopefully you've had a chance to write it down. If you should have paused it. Let's check. So 3 factors. Clock speed. Higher the clock speed means more instructions per second processed. Number of cores. The more cores means more instructions that can be carried out simultaneously at the same time. And the cache size. Larger the cache size means more regularly used data can be stored in the CPU instead of fetching it from main memory, which takes longer. Check your answers, pause, make sure you've got all this information on your sheet, and then the final thing to do. Okay, let's have a look. Final thing to remember, now you've revised, made your notes, go to LearnCumDean, revision, and complete revision quiz 3. This is testing it on this week's, but also the previous weeks we've revised as well. Make sure you get 100% by checking the answer, and then by trying again if the answer is not correct. 100% is your target. Good luck. See me in lesson if you need any support. See you next week.